Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Mom Mode. I am extremely excited about the guests that we have on today. Fangirling over here. We have Stephanie Mae Wilson on the podcast, and Stephanie has her own podcast called Girls Night that I have listened to for the last 5 years. And she has helped me tremendously with all of her encouragement, books she's written that I've read. She's really gotten me through some really tough seasons, and she's such an inspiration. And so to have her on Mom Mode is beyond my wildest dreams, actually. I'm just so excited.
Thank you so much for having me, Nicole. I am over the moon to be here, and but I just can't. I am so honored. I'm so honored that you would think of me and that you'd reach out, and this is gonna be really fun. I can feel it.
I'm really excited. So I guess for those who don't know you yet, can you just give us a little introduction of who you are?
Yes. So I'm Stephanie Mae Wilson, and I'm an author and I'm a podcaster, and I create things like resources like online courses for women. And my thing is helping women through the biggest decisions and transitions we go through in our lives. And particularly these days, I'm talking a lot about marriage and motherhood and career. And, when we're in our late 20s, 30s, we're putting together some of these really foundational pieces of our lives. We're making some of the biggest, like most biographically significant decisions that we'll ever make in our lives. Like at the end of our lives, people are like, oh, well, she did this for work, and she was married to this person, and she's mom to this many kids. And like all those decisions are happening right now. And it's a lot. And so my goal is to help women figure out, first of all, to quiet some of the outside voices telling them what they are supposed to be doing, because there are, I don't know, a billion, and they all disagree with each other. And so quieting some of those outside voices so that we can finally hear our own and figure out what we want to do in our lives and then actually do it. Like you said, one of my favorite things I get to do is Girls Night. And that's so important to me because as I've been going through all these decisions and transitions throughout the last, 10, 15 years of my life, the thing that has kept me on track and kept me sane and kept me like going in the direction that I want to be going as the person I want to be is time with my friends. And I just think that when we come together as women, we get to lean into the collective wisdom that we have. Like we're not just us, we're us plus everybody else. And I like anything is possible when you add us all together. And so that's what Girls Night's all about.
No, I love it. And if you have listened to it, please keep listening. And if you haven't, please go check Girls Night out, because there's so much information and just like so many different topics. Like I feel like a girl can go on there, whether they're single, engaged, married, motherhood, and find something that they can relate with and listen to and learn. So
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I guess this brings up like my first question for you. How are you a podcaster, an author, a speaker, a mom? Like, how do you do it all? Like, how do you organize yourself? What does a day look like for you?
Such a good question. So I should have said, I said kind of professionally what I do, but I'm a mom. I'm a mom to 4-year-old twin girls, Annie and Quinn. And I'm wife to Carl. We've been married for almost 11 years, which is crazy. I feel like that really flew by. And we, for the last 10 years, have been living in Nashville, Tennessee. That's where we made home. But then about 6 months ago, we did something crazy and we rented out our house, sold most of our stuff, and packed up and moved to Spain. So we live in Spain now, and which is truly like a lifelong bucket list thing for me. And so it's really like I wake up every day and I'm like, I cannot believe I'm here. I'm living out something that I've wanted to do forever. And so that's my life right now. It's really sweet. Obviously not perfect in a million different ways, but really sweet. Gosh, how I'm able to do all the things. I feel like the easiest way to answer that is I'm not. Like I'm totally not able to do all the things. Part of why I've always wanted to move to Spain. Who doesn't? That's so fun. But part of why we actually took the leap and were like, no, this is a responsible thing for grownups and parents to do, is because we were suffering so much under the weight of like the childcare crisis that we have in the United States. And I mean, that was one of many, 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 many reasons that we wanted to do this. But finding childcare was so hard. The amount of hoops that we had to jump through to find people that we liked and trusted and, that we felt good about having our kids with so that we could both work was incredibly difficult. And then that's just finding the people, that doesn't even get into affording it. And that was like, I mean, like more than our mortgage, like easily to pay for childcare. And the equation is not simple at all, because for some people, the math works differently. It works differently for every family. But for our family, not only were we both so sure that we wanted to be working, we also knew that for one of us to quit and say, okay, I'm not going to work, I'm just going to stay home, and we're going to eliminate childcare from our budget, the math didn't work out. Like we were losing more than we were gaining by making that switch, specifically financially. And so we're like, what are we going to do? Like we're treading water, but like sinking. And so that was a big reason why we started to think outside the box and be like, okay, is there another alternative here to, I mean, the obvious answer culturally, I think, is like, okay, well, I'm just going to quit my job and I'll just stay home. And that's the exact right answer for so many families. And it just is different for everybody. And it didn't make sense for us in multiple ways. So we're like, okay, so is there another option? And so moving to Spain, our cost of living is lower here. We live in a small apartment, not big house, and actually love it. And our girls are able to go to like normal hour school here. They're still in like basically preschool. But so they go to school from 9 to 2:30 and it is free. And so,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's free. And I think Colorado has I can't remember what it's called now because I don't live there and I don't take advantage of it. But I think they have like free preschool, or they did, or for a while or something like this. So there are some options, but for a long time, our girls were too young to really do anything that was affordable. And so we had nannies and we had them in daycare and we had different things. But I say all of that because, one, if other people are struggling with that right now, you are absolutely not alone. It is as hard as it feels. And because we weren't able to do it all. Yeah. And we came to this really this crossroad. I remember Carla and I were standing in our kitchen and we're like, the math here doesn't work. Like we're both doing work that we love. And that's absolutely a privilege and a luxury. We're doing work that we love. One of us has to stop and do something else, or and that it doesn't make sense for one of us to stay home and take over full-time childcare because financially the math doesn't work. Like I said, we have to choose between your dream, my dream, I don't know, our house. What do we give up here? And really the thing we ended up giving up was our house. We're like, what if we just live live life differently? And so we ended up renting out our house, moving into something smaller, and then moving into something much smaller in moving to Spain. But that's a very, very long way of answering the question and saying we can't do it all. And not long ago, my family came to a very came to a dead end where it was like, okay, the way that we have this structured is not working. We have to do something drastically different.
So with your move to Spain, is this something that's right now you're just staying there? Do you have a timeline of when you're leaving, or are you just gonna you're kind of just, hey, if this works, let's continue to do it until we feel like we need a shift again?
I think we initially said a year. We are like 6 or 7 months into our year.
It flies by.
It flies. Yeah. I'm like, okay, so are we like almost done?
Yeah.
I think for us, it's looking like we're going to stay another year at least. Part of it is because our girls still aren't old enough to go to kindergarten. And so we're like, we really love their school here. Why would we go home to pay for another, like have to find another school? It's just amazing how much childcare dictates like what you're able to do as parents.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're here for, I think, probably another year after this. And then, I mean, I have no idea.
You'll just go from there.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny that you're mentioning this because, I mean, I don't work, and it's mainly because the numbers didn't add up. It was like I'd be working to send my daughter to a childcare where it's even. Like they're like I'm the one not raising my daughter then, and it just wasn't financially, just didn't make sense. So
well, and it definitely doesn't make sense if it's not something that you want to be doing. Like if you're like, okay, I'm just gonna go like clock in, clock out at this job I don't like, so that I'm like, that doesn't make, or like, that doesn't make any sense.
No, 100%. So I have so many questions about you moving to Spain, actually, because my husband and I, so we are in like the suburbs of Chicago. And for us, we don't love the weather. And we originally met in Arizona. And so we have our daughter now. You know, we came here, got married, had our daughter. And now we're like, okay, for her quality of life, we could be outside so much more with her, doing so much more with her than like being bundled inside for like basically like 5-6 months out of the year. Because, you know, and it's because it's that cold. It's like we can't take her outside. So we have been like, you know, faced with this decision. I mean, my husband's on board, but I'm like, do we do it? Do we not? And I was reading through some of your posts because you were like, sometimes I can't believe that I made the decision. And like you say something like at the 11th hour, like you can't back out. And that hit me to my core because, you know, it's not just us, like it's our children now that we're moving too. So it's like there's so much. So for you moving to Spain, I mean, how are your girls adjusting? And like, how are you adjusting as parents there without having that support of like family? I mean, I know you said your close friend moved to Spain as well.
Yeah.
So that probably is really helpful. But like without all the other support around, like how has that adjustment been?
Well, so it's a little tricky because so I've lived far away from my parents since just after college. My family lives in Colorado and I haven't lived near them in a long time. And so I didn't have them right down the street. And then Carl's parents are from Indianapolis. And so they were far away also, except for when they found out that we were pregnant, we had the first grandkids. And so we were very spoiled. And then, so they were like, we're going to get like an apartment or something near Nashville so that we can be there to help with your baby. And then when we found out we were having 2 babies, and then it was also like right at the beginning of the pandemic, they were like, okay, so we're going to like do this a little bit bigger. And so they ended up like basically moving down to Nashville to be close to us.
Oh, wow.
Which was incredible.
Yeah.
And so we really did have like daily, weekly support from them. And then in the last year before we moved here, we moved to their neighborhood. And so we lived like down the street from them for a year. We figured like if we're going to take your grandkids overseas, the least we can do is like have a lot of time together before we go.
Yeah.
So in some ways we did have that family support. And then in some ways, like it wasn't like we were living in a giant community full of all of our people. That would be great. So we did have to leave a lot of the help that we had. I think that's something cool though so I mean, that's scary. Of course it's scary. But one of the things that we got to see when Carl and I first got married, we moved to Nashville and we didn't know anybody in Nashville and we weren't near any of our people. So at the beginning of our marriage was in a place where we were very new and it was just us. And I think that there's something, if I could be surrounded by community, I would choose that every time. But I think the fact that we were by ourselves for so long gave us an opportunity to figure out who we wanted to be as a couple and who we wanted to be as a family and make decisions just for us and like sort of set a new path that we wouldn't have been able to set if my parents were popping in every other minute, or like his parents were popping in every minute, or if we had our same communities of friends from a million years. Like, we just were able to sort of chart a new course and become a team in a way that I don't know we would have been able to as quickly if we were in a more comfortable environment. And I feel the same way about, and I didn't see this coming, but I feel the same way about us being in Spain. We very much brought our girls home into this net specifically of me and Carl and then his parents, because they're the absolute best humans on the planet. And the girls are so close to them. And so in a way, they kind of had 4 parents for a long time, for the first 3.5 years of their lives. And I love that. Moving away from that was scary, but I think it also has been really cool for us to get to spread our wings a little bit and like practice having to be more than we had to be when we had more support, you know, and like it's forcing us to bond, the 4 of us, in a way that like I wouldn't have chosen to bond because I would have wanted grandparents there. I don't know if that makes any sense, but there's some sort of family cultural thing that's pretty cool to kind of having a season where it's just your little unit.
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense. I haven't felt that, but before I was married, I moved to Arizona and I was by myself. And I felt I did that because I said, if I don't move, I'm not going to know what I'm capable of because I have my support system.
Yeah.
So, I was like, if I'm here, you guys are going to just, my parents, my brothers, my grandparents, like, you guys are going to, like, in a way, like, in the best way, like, cuddle me and just, like, be there whenever I need you. And I'm never going to be able to, like, understand what I'm capable of. And so it's that, but you're doing it as a family. And so that's incredible.
And it's us as parents. Like, I just had this like distinct memory as you were saying that of when we were potty training our girls. There was one moment in like the very, very beginning when Carl, I think, truly just went to the store. And both girls had to go potty at the same time. I've clearly been a parent for a long time now that I say go potty, like it's totally normal. Both of the girls had to go to the bathroom at the same time. We have the tiny potties like sitting on the floor. Someone's peeing on the floor. Someone else is peeing on the floor. I'm having like a freak out because this is like so like, why is it so loud? Why is there so much pee on the floor? And I call my in-laws who are, thank God, down the street. And I'm like, I just come now. And I think that they thought someone was probably bleeding from their head, which was not happening. But I just like was so overwhelmed by all the things that were happening all at the same time. We also have super overwhelming moments here. But like, I can't call my mother-in-law. I wish I could, but I can't. And so it's like, I have to figure out what I'm capable of as a mom by myself. And while there are moments where that's harder and we're missing out on so much by not being close to our people, there's something really special about that and really empowering and like, okay, look what we're doing. Look what we're capable of. And then, I mean, so you asked about the girls adapting. They have adapted great. I think the earlier kids are so resilient, and especially younger. Like we've met so many people here in Spain who have moved from other places with kids. And it's much easier to move to a new place when you're 4 than it is when you're 14 or 24. Like you have no embarrassment or no, like making friends is like, well, you're here and I'm here, so I guess we're friends. And like, it's simpler for them than it is for the kids that are older than them that we're seeing who are also here. So that's one thing. And then hang on, there's something else that I was going to say. I can't remember, but yeah. So they've been adapting great, and it really is, I think, much easier on them than it is on basically anybody older than them because they're just less aware of what's happening and what's different.
Yeah. So as far as like adjusting, like culturally, like language, what they're eating, like how has that been? Like, are they learning Spanish? Are you guys learning Spanish?
So I came in with an advantage. I started learning Spanish when I was 10 in school.
Okay.
And just kept going all the way through college. I loved that I started learning so early. And I actually wish that I could have learned more earlier because I know that that's something that's easier when you're little. And so that's something I always said, when I have kids, if I have kids, like I wasn't always sure I wanted kids, but I thought if I do have kids, one of the things I know I want to be true is I want them to learn Spanish, and I want them to learn it early when it's easier. And so the girls are definitely, so my Spanish is getting better day by day. I want it to be like perfect. I'm not there, but it's good. I speak good Spanish. The girls, we put them in a completely Spanish school. I think that they are the only native English speakers in the whole school, and it goes through like high grades. And that's it. And we just kind of tossed them in, and they're doing great. Again, they don't have any shame. They're 4. So they're not embarrassed to speak. They're not embarrassed to mess things up. Like, they have every advantage. And that's been really cool. The first 6 months, I would say, they weren't really saying anything. And you would ask them, like, how do you say house in Spanish? And they'd go, I don't know. And that was like so like right around Christmas, we're like, uh-oh, like, are they really not learning anything? Like, have they not picked up anything? But they've been getting by in class, like totally fine, able to interact and follow directions and stuff like that. So they're understanding. They just weren't really speaking. But something happened around Christmas, and now they're saying more and more every single day. And it's so cool. And they're saying it with like a Spanish accent. And they're really picking it up. So that's like really happening, which is very cool. And then my girls are pretty picky eaters at this point in life, which I think probably most people's kids are. And so one of the things that the school offers is something they call the comedor, and it's a lunchroom, but they have like a in-house chef that makes all the food. So it's like good food. But obviously they make different things than we would in the States. There's no like sloppy joes there or things like, like, I don't know what people make at school lunch anymore, but there's no American kid food. And so the girls every day are presented with different types of food, and they're presented with those different types of food away from us, which I think is a good thing. Instead of us being like, hey, try this thing. They're like, no, Mom, just give me some mac and cheese. So for the first 6 months, every day when we would pick the girls up from school, the chefs would come out and say, no han comido nada. Like, they did not eat anything. And then after a while, and they like thought it was so funny and also confusing. So they would like tell the other parents, like, these kids don't eat anything. These kids don't eat anything. And then like little by little, the girls would eat like a banana and yogurt, and they would always give them bread because they're like, we're trying to like feed them something. But now they're actually trying things, and they still, when we pick them up, the chefs still are like, they don't eat very much. And every day they go poco a poco, like little by little, it's going to get better. Yeah. But it really is like they're trying things that I don't know how to cook and that they wouldn't eat at home, because that's not like, well, we make quesadillas at home. I don't know. We make different things. And so that's a really cool thing that, again, little by little, they're getting exposed to things that they wouldn't have otherwise. And I think that I haven't seen the fruit of that yet, but I think it's going to be really, really special.
Yeah. I mean, that's so incredible that they're experiencing this different culture at such a young age. And I feel like it just goes to show, like, you have to stay there for another year or longer. Like, you're just adjusting after like 6 months, even a year. Like, after a year, I feel like you just get your feet wet with like what you're comfortable, what you find that you like, what you don't like.
Yes.
Restaurants you like to go to, just all of that.
You're finally not new anymore, and you can just be.
Yeah.
I think when we first got here over the summer, it was tricky. Speaking of not doing it all, I don't know what I thought would happen. We had childcare through the summer in past years because we had a nanny or daycare or something. It doesn't close in the summer. But because we were putting them in school here, school didn't start till September. So we moved in at the beginning of July, and we had all of July, all of August, and then half of September where it was just us. And I tried to find a nanny, and I was able to find one, but like it wasn't very much time, and it just was a longer transition than I thought it was going to be. And so, and Carl's working, like trying to work pretty normally, so our whole world doesn't collapse in this transition. But I didn't work for like months, and I did not see that coming, and I was not prepared for that. I had not planned for that, but I just couldn't. Like there wasn't enough time in the day to do all the things I was responsible for. So sometimes you just don't do it all. I haven't talked about this very much yet, and so it's fun. Like it's fun to just
No, I love it. It's like,
chat about
it's
it.
so crazy too, because like this is like something that we're currently trying to figure out what we're going to do. And here you're going through it. Obviously, it's different because you're in Spain, Arizona, we're still in, the US, but
Still,
it's still such a just shift, but it's like,
yeah.
I love it.
Well, so okay, I'm back on track. So
Yeah.
this summer was really hard. We also it was overlapping with our girls were dropping naps, and they were 3.5, so they're like inherently just difficult. It was a hard summer. Lots of meltdowns in beautiful plazas all over Spain in the heat. But the thing that I had this thought as the girls are having a meltdown while we're trying to have this beautiful breakfast, like just one day. And I thought, this is what I was afraid of happening. Like I was afraid to move and that the girls would just, I don't know, like I felt like maybe I wouldn't have the resources to handle this in Spain that I would in the US. But like a meltdown is a meltdown. A diaper blowout is a diaper blowout. Like all these things are exactly the same, no matter where you are. And like, if I had to pick, I think I would rather deal with a toddler meltdown in a beautiful place that I'm excited to be, like, than in my living room at home. Like it doesn't actually make that big of a difference. Kids are kids. They are wherever. And yeah, I think I thought that it was going to be harder or more different here. And I'm sitting there, I'm drinking a coffee that I really wanted to enjoy. And my kids are totally ruining it. But I'm like, this would be happening absolutely anywhere we were.
Yeah.
And I'm just really glad that we're here.
Yeah. It's that, I feel like that feeling is just fear at the end of the day. It's just this fear that creeps in, overthinking, you kind of just have to trust your initial thoughts. So like when you and Carl were like, let's do this, there's a reason of why you got there.
Yeah.
But it's just
I
so
think that
cool.
there's a thought like all over motherhood, especially it comes out during the registry process when you're pregnant. But like, if I just had this thing, or if I was in this place, or if I can organize if I can organize my pantry this exact way, this will make this easier. Yeah. And to an extent, like that's a little bit true. Like if you have like the right materials in your diaper bag, it will help when you need to change a diaper in the middle of someplace unfamiliar. But like that's only true to an extent. You cannot resource your way out of parenting being hard. You can't comfort your way out of, like, no matter how comfortable of a house or a nursery or a rocking chair or a situation you're in, it's still really hard when your kid's up in the middle of the night or throwing a temper tantrum. Like it doesn't matter if you're in your living room in the safest place ever, surrounded by your family and friends, or if you're someplace unfamiliar. Like a meltdown's a meltdown. It kind of sucks anywhere. And so it's just letting go of that idea that it has to be exactly perfect, otherwise it's going to be extra hard. It's like, I think we can just let go of some of that because it's just kind of hard anyway. Yeah. And so how can we move forward and make decisions that resonate with the rest of us and the rest of the life that we want to live, instead of being kept in this little cage thinking that that's keeping us safe.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more, because I would say you're right. Like, no matter what changes you make that, and like we've said it about our house that we live in, we're like, oh, we wish we just had a 1-floor house. We don't have stairs to go up and down. But like, should we move into a 1-story house? Like, parenting is still going to be hard. Like, that's not going to go away. I'm just going to be living in that 1-story house being like, oh, if only this. Like, there's always going to be something. And so I guess the biggest thing is like, when becoming a parent, it's so important to still live out your dreams. And I mean, you've been wanting to move to Spain. So your book that you wrote, The Lipstick Gospel, talks through faith. So like I don't know is that when you like met God or like reconnected? Like what would you
met for the
met
first
God, and when you were in Spain?
I was in Spain. I think technically I was in Italy. I was
You're
in
in
Italy
Italy,
when I
but
like first had the moment of being like, oh my gosh, hello, Jesus. Like, there you
yeah,
are. But the whole process happened very much in Spain.
yeah. And so for you to kind of have that full circle moment is really incredible. And to do it with your family. Like not only are you back there, but you're there with your husband and you're there with your daughters. Um, and I almost feel like, you know, when you're doing something that's for you, mentally it can put you in a better place. And then mentally the meltdowns might not seem as bad.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, you know, like, because I just feel like if, and as a parent, as a mom, when you are in the right place, then it just seems like things are easier. Things aren't like blowing up at you because you're not satisfied with where you're at. So, you know, when you and Carl were talking about how difficult childcare was, and here you're faced with these decisions of maybe you leave your job, maybe you stop doing what you're doing, like that makes those tantrums 10 times harder. Or them waking up in the middle of the night so bad
So you're
versus
like,
when you,
not only are you up in the middle of the night, but you robbed me of my identity or my dreams or something. Like
right?
it's a lot to put on a kid.
It's a
And
lot.
we, as moms, like, I mean, I wrestle all the time with being like, in any, like, take a snapshot during any day. If I'm like, hey, I'm going to make you wait for me right now because I'm making dinner. Like you're asking me for help with something and I'm going to tell you, hold on for the 100th time today because I'm making you dinner. Or I'm going to not play with you. I'm going to go take a shower. That feels selfish to me. Like that feels like I'm not doing what's best for my kids. I constantly have to remind myself that like me being completely wrung out and completely dry is not actually better for them. It's going to make me mean. Like it's going to make me super impatient, and it's not setting anyone up for success. My happiness, my fulfillment, my cleanliness like matters for all of us. I heard
Yeah.
this clip from Brene Brown, and I actually have never been able to listen to the whole interview. So I need to go find it. But she was talking about that there are kind of two different ways to structure your family. And one is kids first. Well, I guess let's say there's three. So one is kids first, one is parents first, and then one is family first. And that those are kind of some options. So kid first would be like, okay, well, like, doesn't matter if mom needs a shower because kids want to do this. Or like, doesn't matter if mom and dad haven't seen their friends in a million years. We've got baseball every second of every day on the weekends. Parents first is like, sorry, kids, we're just going to drag you along to whatever we want to do. And we don't care what you need or what you want or to make room for you in our family life. And then family first is like, what we all need matters to all of us. And so it matters that mom and dad are cared for and fed and showered and doing things that matter to them. It also matters that the girls are the same way. And so there are times where I will be like, okay, I'm not going to do this because this is what my girls need. But also there's some times where they have to wait and make some space for me to do this thing so that our family as a whole can function at its best. And I just really like that. And I just didn't know that was really an option before having kids.
It's just like a balance. Like you have to take it for, you know, in that moment, am I, like you said, am I completely dry to where I'm not my best self right now? So I need to take a second and I need to put me first. Or in that moment, are you feeling like I'm good? I need to do what's best for my children right now. Like it's just understanding, like it's just an in the moment, I feel like thing where it's just a balance.
I feel like it's like a dance.
Yeah.
You know, it's a little bit of give here, it's a little bit of give there. And everybody, I want to teach them. They're so young. So it's like we have a ways before we'll fully comprehend this. But like, I want to teach them that we're a team and that we're a unit as a family and that what we need matters. And also because I'm a mom and I'm female and I have daughters who are female, like I don't want to model for them this thing that's been passed down to us for generations and generations, which is this martyrdom of women. Like your needs should not matter. You should put everything aside for the sake of your family. Like you don't matter. Don't take up space. Like I don't want them to learn that. I don't want them to model that. I want them to, like, I feel like for so many of us, our moms put us first. And so they didn't have friends, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't want my girls to put their kids first so that they don't have friends. I think that they're better moms when they do have friends. And so I want them to get a babysitter and go spend time with their friends. And I want them to, like, I want my daughters to see me do that so that they can do that for like in front of their kids. I think friends are really helpful, and they're really helpful for all of us. So I want them to see that. I want to model that for them so that they can do that in their own lives.
Yeah. No, friends are so important. I mean, I don't know. There's just something to be said about having your girlfriends. Family is important, your parents, your siblings, but there's a special bond with some of your girlfriends and ones that you've had for a while. And it's kind of brings you back to life. It fills up your cup when you get to see them.
Yeah. Something that I think I really undervalued that I'm getting a lot of this year is laughter. And I think that there are just a lot of years where, I don't know, like we were having tiny kids and, we were all stuck inside for a long time or we were, working really hard and really focused on work, which like I really love and really value that. But this year I'm getting to laugh and play a lot. And it just is so good for me. And I don't know that I would have been able to say, like, I need more laughter in my life. Like, I think of it like a medicine, I need more vitamin D. I probably do. But like, I really need some more laughter. And it just is, it really fills up time with my friends and time to play and be lighthearted and laugh a lot. Just fills up my cup in a way that it just hasn't been filled up in a while, or like consistently enough in a long time.
And is that since moving to Spain, you think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think the change has been, I haven't been logistically in a place where I've had a lot of everyday friends for a long time. I haven't known my neighbors in a long time. And so I have like fantastic soul lifelong best friends in Nashville, but we were all really pretty scattered and busy. Like everyone has their families in town or their in-laws in town and like all kinds of things going on. And so to be able to get on each other's calendars, it was like, well, how about 3 months from Tuesday? And so we got like a really, really good several hour, totally cup filling hang once every 3 months. But I haven't had like, what are we doing this weekend? Friends around in a long time. And I think because we moved here with my best friend, Kelsey, and like when we got here, we were the only people we knew. So that was really helpful. We just kind of were like, okay, well, what are we doing this weekend? Well, what are we doing next weekend? It's just always, it's a we. And I think that what I'm learning is that friends in proximity, being close in proximity to each other makes it easier to do small things on a regular basis. Instead of like having it have to be a whole production. And I think that's something I'm really going to prioritize moving forward.
100%. And my husband and I talk about this all the time because we don't have a lot of good friends near us here. Like my friends that I had in high school, they've moved. One's in Wisconsin, one's in Florida. My husband has none of his close friends here. And we do have we have such wonderful neighbors who we get together with, and that's really nice. But it's not like the friends that we have known for years and have this like special long bond with. And so we miss that because we had that in Arizona. And so we find that a lot of times right now, and it could be just having a kid, we're just going through the motions. And when you go through the motions, it is so draining. It's so exhausting as a mom. And you almost I almost have started to feel like bad. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, are we giving her her best life? And like you said, like being able to look forward to like the weekend, or like maybe you guys even do like a during the week dinner, like, hey, what are you doing on Thursday? Let's do like tapas. I don't know, like what you do in Spain. But like, it just makes life so full and so light and airy and fun. And I feel like that's so important when we go through this time in our lives as moms. Like we need something to look forward to, not just a few months from now. And just like the hustle and bustle of work and just everything. And I just feel like sometimes as a mom, like you wake up, you get the kids dressed, you have breakfast, then you do your day to day, then you're at the dinner table, then it's night, and it just starts to feel so routine that, I feel like, your move to Spain, maybe you even feel that, like from when you look back at Nashville to now, it's probably drastically different what your day to day is like.
It really is. And it's not even that it's like, I don't know. We still wake up, we get the girls ready, we go to school, we walk them to school, which is cool because we don't have a car here. And so that's something fun that Carl and I get to do every day is walk them to school and then walk them home, or like walk together to go pick them up. But like I think the biggest difference is one that here, so having an everyday friend nearby. And so we're able to be like, hey, after school, do you want to let the kids go ride their scooters in this plaza? Like, yes. Okay. So I think that would be possible if we lived in a smaller place or a place where we like a lot of people we know go to the same park. So I think some of that is proximity to friends. Some of it I think is stage of like development for your kids. I think when your kids are babies, like your kids can't play together. So your options are kind of limited. I've heard and I've seen that as they get older, it's a little bit easier to be social together. But then another thing like that I really love here is that relationships are so valued in Spain. Like people spend so much time sitting at coffee shops, drinking coffee together and like talking. Like, you guys, are you guys on at work? Like, this is amazing. It just lots of time with your people out in the world is super, super normal here. Whereas I feel like we spent so much time in our house and then would make plans that took a whole lot of heavy lifting that would take us to a restaurant once every 3 months to see our people. And I'm like, I don't know how to cultivate that differently, or how to like, I don't know how to bring that, if we move home, I don't know how to bring that home necessarily. But it is so nice that Spain in a way has kind of done that for us, being like, well, this is how we do things here. And you're like, okay, I will just fall in line. And that's great.
Yeah. I haven't been to Spain, but I've been to Israel. And I just feel like so many countries are very similar in that cultural sense where like they're not rushing, when they're out at coffee, like work is important, but like they're present in the moment outside of that. So I definitely understand that. One more thing I want to go over is like your faith. So how has your faith gotten you through the time of like, obviously like being single and that trying time in your life before you met your husband, before you had your kids, and like, how did you bring that into like your family life now? Like how do you pour that into your girls? Or even like, how has your faith, I guess, helped you during the times of like the trials of motherhood?
I'm trying to think of how to, like, I'm trying to think of how I want to answer this. I think that one of the most helpful things with getting through the trials of motherhood has been, it's just really wonderful to know that you're not alone. And there's something so, I think that our prayer lives and our prayer and our like faith rhythms change a lot when we become moms, because our time isn't our own the way that it used to be. And that's a transition. So if anyone is feeling that, like that's very true and real. But I think one thing I would say is that that's not a bad thing, and you're not doing anything wrong. If all of a sudden, like if you go from, okay, well, I used to have an hour in the morning to spend with God, and now it's like, I don't even know what time I'm getting up because like, some 4-year-old comes and flops on me like in the middle of the night, it's your life is so much less your own. And so I think that really is a transition. And I think I am bent towards like, well, if I really tried enough, then this wouldn't be this way. So it must be like my fault. I think there is a transition that happens. when you become a mom, and that transition affects everything, including your faith. But just because your habits or your schedule has changed doesn't mean that God has changed. And I'd say it doesn't mean that he's mad at you. Like, there's not one exact right way to spend time with God every day or to connect with him. And so if it's different for a while or if it's different forever, like that's a beautiful thing. It doesn't mean like he hasn't changed. And one of the things I think, like I said, that's super helpful is just knowing that you're not alone, and that you're not just like operating in your own strength as a mom. You have backup, like really amazing backup. And then I think it's also really helpful for our faiths when we're parents, because we get to see this, like, we get to tell a little person, no matter what you do, I'll never stop loving you. And it's easy. I think it's a little bit easier to receive that as a kid ourselves, or as a child ourselves, when we say that to someone else, it's a little bit easier to believe that God feels that way about us.
Also. Yeah. No, I would agree. I mean, I definitely feel like I used to have all this time to listen to different, pastors. I would go and I would just like look up, what spoke to me in that moment and be able to listen and really be present in that, moment. And, nature, being out in nature, sometimes I feel like I can connect with God. And now I'm like, no, when I go outside, I'm chasing after my daughter, like it's very different.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that when you said it doesn't mean that God's changed. Like he's still the same. It's just, the priorities have, not priorities, but life shifts a little differently, and you just have to learn to adjust to that over time.
I think like kind of like if I can put sort of a bow on what I've been learning in the last year, like the beginning of my girls' lives was so overwhelming for me. Like I was absolutely exhausted at the end of myself, like had nothing left for absolutely anything. It just was really hard. It has been getting better little by little. And I feel like my capacity has grown, but also some of my margin has grown as they're getting a little bit bigger. And so we're in this really cool place where we're starting to be able to do things together. And so when you said go out in nature, like if that's a way that you used to connect with God, there is a point when your kids are slightly bigger, when they're able to go out in nature too. And like, that's something you can do together. I think we as a family are just starting to hit that point, and it's super, super special. And I feel like my favorite moments of parenting are absolutely like to come. Everyone is different in the parts that they enjoy the most or the parts where they thrive the most. But I think having 2 tiny babies was like not my sweet spot necessarily. It just was really difficult. But I think we're getting into a part where it's like, oh man, I get to show you the world and we get to experience it together. Like, and that includes that includes faith, theirs and mine. Like this is where the magic happens.
Yeah. I love that. No, I can't wait till I can, bring her out and enjoy that with her. So I guess any advice for moms that are, in this like transition, like myself, even like how you and Carl were like, do we make this move? How do we do this? Like, what would your advice be when like a couple or a mom is at a crossroad with, a big life decision and change? Like, what advice do you have for them?
Nicole, I just realized what time it is. I have to hop off like in just like 1 second.
Yeah, no worries.
I want to keep talking. I think go for it. Go for it. There are very few things in life that you can't reverse or change or make a different decision down the road. I think very few things are black and white, like this is right, this is wrong. And there are a whole bunch of different right and beautiful ways to live your life and live different seasons and be a parent. And I think my sort of philosophy is I would rather try something and like get it wrong and fail than wonder what would have happened if I tried. I can live with the regret of failure better than I can live with the regret of never knowing. And so I think if there's something that you're wanting to do or wanting to try, like go on a little adventure as a family, like give it a try. And if it's awful, then reverse it. But I think that stretching ourselves and trying new things and exploring the world and stretching our wings as parents and as a family, like really beautiful things come from that, even if it's lessons, even if it's hard-won lessons, those are still really beautiful things and really worthwhile.
I love that. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for being here and for coming on the podcast. It's been such an honor to talk to you. And everything that you said really spoke to me. And I hope it speaks to other moms that are listening.
Thank you. Seriously. Thank you so much for having me, Nicole. I'm so honored. And I've just loved getting to spend this time together.
Yeah, me as well. I feel the same. Well, best of luck on your adventure in Spain, and I can't wait to follow it. Continue to follow it.
Thank you. Are we done recording?